Daniel, the All-Knowing Diary is a book that really gets you thinking. It rouses our inquisitive nature as well as our deeper inquiring mind. Was that your intention?
It's a good question, Julie. Look, ultimately the intention was to bring to light many of these aspects to being human that remain kind of hidden for most people, to bring to light what our true nature entails and what our true capabilities look like. And that was really the main purpose behind the All-Knowing Diary. So what I'm going to do, I can just go into what we call a whole brain state, which allows me to kind of pick up on information around you, specifically the information from your all-knowing self. And when I get to do that, they're the ones who are navigating your life. It's always steering it towards the greenest pastures. So if you just give me 2 seconds and I'll just see what those immediate messages are there.
Okay.
All right, the very first message that comes along is that you've got a very kind of strong preoccupation with your daughter's well-being. Yeah. And it's time to kind of let that bird out of the nest so she can start flying on her own. Are you moving in the right direction?
Am I on a good thing? It feels like a good thing,
Right.
but maybe it's just getting impatient.
Well, Helen, we have an amazing tool that we call our brain that does far more than we realise. And one of the things we can use our brain for is to actually tap into the information, if you like, the energy of a business. These are very subconscious feelings that we have that that lay dormant. Because they're dormant, because they're not in our conscious awareness, the body has no other way to bring it to our awareness but showing up in our body. And because of the area, like I said, the subject matter of that cancer goes straight into that part of your body, and the ovaries obviously creating birth and creating a child. It's like when we get food poisoning, we have a chicken or fish that was off. The body says, I can't sustain this toxin in my body, let me get it out. So it tries to vomit it out, right? Cancer is exactly the same as food poisoning. But instead of eating food, we've digested a thought process or an opinion of ourselves or an opinion of a parent. And the body's saying, but it's not the truth, Robin. That opinion you're carrying around in you isn't actually the truth. It's just happened in error. And the body's way of showing it to you, it kind of gives you in these lessons of a feather, like a headache, or a brick, which is something a little bit more severe, or a Mack truck, like a cancer. And the body's constantly trying to say, get it out, it's not true, it's not true. And this is why we get repeat patterns occurring in our life, because it's the way our body and our universe around us is trying to heal us of these symptoms. I understand you're looking for general direction. You're a bit stuck at the moment.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, there's something absolutely amazing for you to know and for all of us to know, is that we never need to be stuck. It's only when we've disconnected from our true nature, our higher self-intelligence, is when we actually become stuck. So what I'm going to do for you this morning is actually use what we call whole brain intelligence, where both hemispheres of our brain kind of connect together, and it has our brain become more like an antenna. And then I'm able to not only connect into my own higher self, but I'm also able to connect into yours to shed some light in any area of life to bring you the answers and direction that you're looking for. We all have this beautiful capability that we can connect directly to somebody else's higher self, or what many people will call their soul or their spirit. And that's the part of you that generates your intuition. It's an all-knowing part of you, so it's connected to everyone else and everything else and all future events and all likely outcomes. So it's your guide, your coach, your mentor, your career counsellor. It's an all-knowing part of you, and our role as human beings is to connect back into that so we're all-knowing again. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to connect into that part of you to relay back to you the answers to your question. There's always been a searching for and a knowing that there's far more to this universe, far more to this reality than meets the eye. There's so much more generating it. What created it? You know, why do I have fingerprints? Who designed that? Or eyebrows or eyelashes? Who came up with that? Who designed the inner workings of the eye? And it didn't just happen by accident. This is serious intelligence going into the human form. And I was always very curious as to how things came to be. So it was just, I think, more like a program, kind of, if you like, on a DNA level that always spurred me to hunting and searching for the answers.
So how did that conflict then, Dan? You left school and you became a successful marketing executive. So it was quite a fast-paced and I would say perhaps an ego-filled existence. Did you have a lot of resistance in your life?
The irony, of course, is that the resistance was always to the spiritual, you know, to what would bring me happiness, to what would bring me fulfillment. There was so many subconscious programming, if you like, beliefs at the subconscious level that were driving me towards achievement, driving me towards ambition and accomplishment, that whenever somebody mentioned, no, you just need to be still, you need to be present, or you need to connect to your soul or anything like that, it was like, later. When I'm accomplished, when I'm an accomplished millionaire, then I'll give myself time to look at that. And of course, the irony is that, you know, the sequence is completely out. It's like when you become connected, when you become present and still, that's when you become on purpose, and that's when you can have those things that truly satisfy you. So the resistance, there was always, I guess, a prevalence of a tug of war in my life. It was an inner knowing, and it was very, very strong all the time. You're going in the wrong direction. Do not do that. That is going to hurt you. You know, that's that pathway of ambition. Look at your body. Look how it's reacting to that. You know, you're stressed. You've got hair falling out of your head. You've got anxiety attacks. Look at the evidence there. Seriously, obviously something's not right. But yet those, because they're subconscious beliefs, they're so powerful, it's almost like you don't have a choice. If you're not aware of exactly those beliefs, and least of all, if you're not aware how to shift them, they become your master and you the slave. So I was being compelled by these beliefs that that's what I need. If I'm to be whole, if I'm to be accepted, if I'm to be lovable and happy in life and fulfilled, I've got to pursue this. And that's the design of the beliefs, to propel you towards things that you believe that you're going to get something from, when ultimately the flip side is they're leading you up the garden path. There were many of those defining moments, but there's still that stubbornness and the belief systems powering, or what we call the ego powering forward. Go, yes, I'm coming up empty-handed. Yes, everything hurts. Yes, life sucks. But I'm going to still pursue it because that's what society says brings happiness. If you've got the powerful career, which I had, if you've got the kind of relationship or the type of female that society deems you should have, well, I'm going to stick with it, damn it. And so there was many of those moments where I was coming up empty-handed, but still something defiant went, well, maybe I haven't quite got enough. Maybe if I have more of that, then I'll be happy. And eventually it got to the point where, you know, you've got to pay attention. Nothing's working. There's nothing you're doing, no matter how successful, how accomplished, who's in your life, who's, you know, and it's still not paying off. And you're in so much pain and so unhappy. You kind of, I remember that there was many of these, but there was times where it's like, all right, I'm listening. I'm ready to listen now. We have this almost innate attachment to possessions, to experiences, to people, to circumstances, to expectations that people have on us, to a particular reputation. And in that moment, you're confronted with, what am I going to have to lose or let go of to love myself, which is where I'm relaxed and happy? What's that going to mean? So there was kind of a lot of kicking and screaming along the way. It's like you're being dragged down a hallway and you've got your nails out, your feet out, and you're being dragged, because those things that you're attached to them because you believe you need them. And as you look at them more deeply, you get to see that all they're doing is supporting misery. All they're doing is supporting failure and unhappiness. So the minute you can get that distinction, that realization that they're causing more pain than happiness, you're very quick to let them go. But until you look at them, because they're so subconscious, your mind just hears, but I need that. But I need that. That's intrinsically who I am. And without that, I'm nobody. But it's the opposite. It's with those things you're nobody.
And I guess it's like, that consumerism, especially, coming into the Industrial Revolution, the consumerism wasn't just for the elite. It became available to, I guess, the masses. And so we became a society that needed those things to define who we were. And so here were you looking at things going, well, do I really need that? And what have I lost? And what did you discover?
Well, the interesting thing is you're saying that you can get to see my life and many others very much mirrors our civilization, what we've gone through over time. And you get to discover that without knowing who we are, we cling to things outside of ourselves to yield a particular identity. And unfortunately, those things that we cling to aren't real. They're not who we are. And so until we realize who we are at our core essence, we're almost possessed to add more, to find more, to be seen as more, to have more people, because it's filling a void. If we inherently don't know our true nature, we look for it in other people, in other things. And that's what my life journey has been about, is being brought up into a school with very, very wealthy people. Not being wealthy, I'm missing something. Who am I? I'm not somebody without money. So my journey very much has mirrored what society is going through. And until I found myself and what I am at my core, which we talk much about in the book, until you reach that point, you're looking for everything to fill a hole. And I was making a transition into realizing who I was. There was this kind of chasm that I had to leap across. And that was the depressing bit, because making that leap, you're having to look at who you think you are, which a lot of people confuse as who they really are, but it's not. It's just who we think we are. And it's making that leap where you go, that's where the light of the tunnel is, at the end of the tunnel. That's who I really am. So it was a very depressing and disheartening transition, because you're going from who you think you were to seeing who you're worried you are to actually realizing who you truly are.
Yeah. I guess this is heartening for people to hear this side of it. I know it was a painful period in your life, Dan, but it's actually, you look at the book and you seem so accomplished and you're very connected and there's a lot of love around you. And you would look at that and go, well, how did Dan get here? And to hear that part of your story, it's actually might make people think, actually, yeah, I can do that too.
Well, the irony, of course, Julie, which is something we only discovered, on the other side of this transition, is that we're all internal, very self-sufficient beings. We have an immense resource available to us that when we learn to tap into that, we actually don't need all these things that we think we need. It's like we have our own best friend, our best coach, our best mentor, an enlightened Buddha within us that can be accessed quite easily. But you need to trust, once you've connected, you need to trust that it's there, that it's real, and it's there for you. And this is why it's so revolutionary, some of these capabilities, because as a society, as a civilization, we've been entrenched in our limiting beliefs and buying into that reality that we haven't been able to draw on these abilities. So they seem supersensory or unbelievable, but they're completely innate. So yeah, everything that's in that book has come about because of some form of hardship in our life that we've come up against some brick wall and gone, okay, why is this experience still happening? So we've had to go into our, at the soul level, at the subconscious level and go, well, what's the belief system creating this as a reality? And let's shift it. And every layer of limiting belief that you shift, new information becomes available. And the deeper you go and the more layers you clear, more capabilities become available. Because at the end of the day, the reality that we're experiencing as an individual, as a collective society, is dictated by what we believe at the subconscious level, not what we believe at the conscious level. We can believe all these things until we're blue in the face. But until your subconscious has that complete realization, embraces it on every level, these things are just fantasy. And that's what we've gone through. We've gone through a lot of hardship, so hopefully many others don't have to go through the same.
Oh, that's fantastic, Dan. Dan, if you could choose only one outcome that you want people to get from reading the Allknowing Diary, what would it be?
It's that they get connected to their all-knowing self and that all their decisions come from that space. The reason we as human beings struggle within ourselves, as a family, and as a society is because most of our decisions are coming from the beliefs we're holding at the subconscious level, beliefs we hold about ourselves, and it's not the truth. So our beliefs are mirroring the truth, the opposite of the truth. So our decisions are coming from the opposite space of what's real, which is why we're experiencing so much of the turmoil that we are on this planet. It's why we're sacrificing trees, life-giving trees, for money, why we're poisoning the air that we breathe. Like, you look at that. These are opposite behaviors. These aren't behaviors of intelligent beings. And it's because our beliefs are holding money and material acquisitions as a greater priority than the survival of our species or the enlightenment of our species. So the ultimate intention of this book is get connected to your all-knowing self, access the intelligence that we're all born to access, and have all your decisions come from that space.
So you're saying then that really, if we're listening to our own intuition, we can make a profound impact on the planet.
Without a doubt, we can have everything we've always wanted, from world peace to happy, fulfilled beings, to eliminating illness and disease out of our life. I realize these sound idealistic, but they're only present because we're accessing this tiny part of our brain. We need to be putting this intelligence, this wisdom into schools, into governments, into leadership. If we have enlightened leaders, we will create an enlightened planet.
So I guess this is another reason for the book too, Dan. I mean, I know in one sense, you feel that's what you needed to do. It's on your life path, but it also has a bigger impact for the world.
My ultimate purpose is to spread the awareness and the capability of all knowing to as much as humanity as possible. Whether that's me directly or other people like me in similar positions, that's why I'm here. It's without that capability, or especially the awareness of that capability, that we're still going to persist on destroying ourselves. Human beings believe it's in our nature to be destructive, but that couldn't be further from the truth. If you look to nature, you will see that nature is life-giving, nurturing, and magnificent. Beliefs play a pivotal role in what our reality looks like, who we see ourselves to be, what career choices we make, what relationships we put ourselves in, the harm we do to ourselves. Everything is being driven on some level by the beliefs we hold. And unfortunately, to date, rather than seeing these things as just beliefs, we as humanity, generally speaking, are invested so strongly in these beliefs, we actually think they're true. And they're right at the helm of dictating how we next evolve as a species. So I felt it was incredibly important to bring to light the notion that our beliefs are simply that, just beliefs, not reality. Finance, relationships, children, careers, because looking at where there's lack in life, where there's hardship, where there's struggle, there's always a limiting belief underpinning that experience. One of the key messages is that we have a choice. Do we experience life through the filter of our belief system, or do we alternatively experience life through enlightened eyes, through our soul perspective, and see what's possible in that realm? So that's the kind of dichotomy that's going on, is this split personality, thinking of ourselves so in such a small light, that brings the ego into the form. So we're reconditioned. We're at the phase of our evolution where we're learning to recondition ourselves to not by default relating to ourselves as small, but by default relating to ourselves as big as the entire universe integrated throughout our entire physiology. From the perspective of manifesting and living a desired experience, we have to believe it through and through. So if we're taking an affirmation such as, I'm worth $1 million, I deserve this incredible career, yet underneath there's all these limiting beliefs going, you're only worth $25,000 a year and you're only worth a miserable career, that's what we end up creating. That becomes the overriding program. I had this really interesting experience with a friend of mine now who's also a GP. And we met on holidays, and we're about to go on a chocolate tour. And he said to me, "Oh, Dan, I can't. I get migraines from chocolate." And having the capability, obviously, that we have at UI Group and what we teach in the All-Knowing Diary, I said, "Hang on a second. That's not why you get migraines. You do not get migraines from chocolate." And the problem in a lot of the kind of scientific world is everything's kind of evidence-based, physical evidence. So you go chocolate, migraine. But there's a lot happening in between those two events that cannot be seen in the physical world. That's what we call thought. So I tuned into him and I said, let's have a look at really where that migraine's coming from. And what happens is, because he was raised with such discipline and being strict, when he was young, he was slapped, condemned for having chocolate, okay? And every time he deviates from that discipline, he was condemned.
But he's not aware of it.
No, so what's transpiring subconsciously is reach for the chocolate, condemn myself for not being disciplined. Guilt, migraine. He doesn't get migraines from chocolate, he gets migraines from guilt.
Wow, that's pretty big. And it's interesting to see how many other areas in our life that manifest.
Absolutely. Awareness and truth is what heals the body, okay? Lies and denial is what creates the illness. And once again, the irony is that this is just a phase. Experiencing illness and disease and dying prematurely, this is a phase of our evolution. And it's simply a byproduct of not using our whole brain, of not tapping into that very natural, all-knowing part of ourselves. And you will see, we'll get to a point where these things just do not happen. Because when we're looking at it through intuitive eyes and we're shining the light of truth, the body has no need to manifest it as an illness. Despite acquiring money or physical possessions or relationships, there's one thing we get to keep, and that's our evolution. And you can call that information, you can call that intelligence, or you can call it wisdom. But that accumulated knowledge and wisdom gets stored. You get to take a lot of that with you into your next experience, and that's a fast-track method.
Dan, can we talk about our all-knowing self?
Yeah, love to.
As a society, what do you think our biggest fear is?
In terms of connecting to our all-knowing self? That there's more to us than who we believe ourselves to be? And then what will that mean to our life, about our decisions, about all these things that we want, all the things that we're attached to? What if there is a higher power that belongs to each of us that knows a better way forward? And what if we could have been listening all along? What does that mean? You know, there's a lot of consequences of facing up to that truth. Ultimately, they're just an illusion of the ego, all these fears. But to ignore one's all-knowing self is like being Superman, but living your life as Clark Kent. all the time. As I said before, to me, it's the ultimate definition of insanity. To have the sum total of intelligence of the entire universe within you and to not draw on that because of some fears that aren't real, that's a real shame. Our beliefs are simply just beliefs. And who we've been being, our decisions and our actions and the policies of the world and our behaviours was coming from a false space. We need to really get that. And knowing that allows us to make that next step to going, well, okay, if that's who we're not, then who are we really? And it makes it easier to allow in who we are really. But of course, you know, the whole book, the intention behind the book is to teach people how to connect to that part of themselves. So yeah, getting a copy of the book would be also a great first step. Here is a pure all-knowing intelligence that permeates the entire universe, and that's within all of us. It wouldn't be in your highest good to bring other associations with that. Rather, what's in everyone's highest good is to get connected to that and then discover by asking their higher self, what are you? What do you entail? What do you really mean? So let's do away with other people's perspectives, other people's truths, and let's actually get connected to our own truth. And that's the ultimate point people need to get is, if this isn't all I am, then who am I? And that's really where the all-knowing diary starts to take you. I don't want to start embracing guidance from some entity or some intelligence that's giving my power away, isn't it? And once again, that's the ego's way of setting you off course. Ultimately, by getting connected to your higher self, who is you, yes, you're reclaiming your power. You gave away your power the minute you ignored or denied yourself that you even have a higher self.
So when we put aside the ego, when we set that aside, then we can truly experience
what power actually is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.